It is I, the ultimate dragon.
What's that?
I who will destroy everything you hold dear.
Seriously, I can't quite see. Is that, what is that?
Are you? Why aren't you acknowledging me?
Sorry, Fatalis. I was looking past you. Hello, my fellow hunters. Fatalis is scary, but you know what's even scarier? Imagine once we've defeated him, there's no more Monster Hunter. That's it. It's over. Well, except of course it isn't. There is undoubtedly going to be eventually a Monster Hunter 6, eventually Monster Hunter mores of every kind, but the question is when, and how, and what, and all other some such questions. Because for a little bit, there will be a no man's land where Iceborne is done. But the next Monster Hunter is so far away, and we might have to do something other than kill innocent creatures living their lives, like reliving my exciting childhood and just playing MMORPGs all day. God, I was cool. Something like Lost Ark, which seriously guys, I realize this is a little bit of a tangent, but Lost Ark is just, it looks so good. It looks so good. And actually the only reason that I even can say that it looks good is thanks to today's sponsor, ExpressVPN, because I played the Korean version of Lost Ark, and I can only do so with a little bit of VPN trickery. Now everybody knows that VPNs secure your data, they encrypt everything, they make you all good to go. But let's be honest here, the reason that you want one, the reason that you need one, is because it tears down all geographic barriers you could ever find. And I seriously couldn't have found my love for Lost Ark without it, and God, I can't wait for it to come to the EU, but until then, I can keep on trucking thanks to ExpressVPN. And you too can do this. If you look down below, there is a lovely link for you, expressvpn.com/RageGaming, and you can get 3 whole months free, which I think is a pretty sweet deal, if I say so myself. So, back to the question at hand then.
Whoa, did you seriously just do that? In a video involving the great me, Fatalis, you did a goddamn sponsor.
Okay, Fatalis, alright, we're not all Mr. Black Dragon owning a whole kingdom here. Sometimes we have to do things, alright, to keep the channel running.
Well, as long as it means you can talk about me some more.
Yes, sure, whatever, don't hurt me.
Continue.
So after Fatalis then, what comes next? Let's discuss, to me, the 3 major possibilities. The first one, of course, is Monster Hunter 6, or Monster Hunter World 2, or Monster Hunter Infinite! Whatever they call it. They've said they're moving away from the numeric way of labeling them, hence why Monster Hunter World is World and not 5. But in either case, whatever Monster Hunter World 6 turns out to be, it's almost guaranteed. Monster Hunter World Iceborne is Capcom's most successful game in a franchise that is now obscenely popular pretty much everywhere, and that is something that doesn't go unnoticed. Companies generally like to make money.
Inconceivable!
And of course we would like more Monster Hunter. It's a match made in heaven, but when will it be made? Well, that's a question with a sad answer, because, well, World came out 4 years after 4 Ultimate did, which means it at least took that 4 years to be ready. Now, obviously, that's them working with an entirely new engine, the entirely new way of doing things, and, you know, it took a little bit of extra getting used to and working out, so the next one should definitely be sped up, but I would still be surprised if we saw it before 2022. I imagine it will be announced next year, and then we'll see it the following. It might be sped up, perhaps, but let's be honest, the Monster Hunter team is ambitious, and I can't imagine a world where we've not got the return of things like Leviathans, of the insects, getting them to work. The reason that they couldn't work, as it turns out, is because the way that they move across terrain that has various elevations kinda makes the skeleton freak the fuck out and completely break down. So they have to crack that little bit of a issue. Either way, whether it's set back in the old world, or we continue to explore more of the new, as it would be easy to just keep adding more and more undiscovered locations, like the entire Iceborne icy island, is another question entirely. It's almost impossible to guess, but the one thing that I would say is certain is a return of more varied monster types now they've got to grips with this way of doing things, and that's the most exciting thing. So this one's the easy prediction. Of course, we're going to get another mainline Monster Hunter for next-gen consoles, and it's going to be ever more expansive. But the thing is, there are two Monster Hunter teams. The air quotes main team that is working on the air quotes mainline games, but then there is also the side team. See, the base world was headed up by Mr. Yuya Tokuda, a veritable legend, but he was not part of Iceborne, so the question is, of course, what has he been up to? And the answer to that very much likely is another Monster Hunter portable game for the Switch. You see, that has always been a huge market for Monster Hunter. In fact, World Iceborne was appreciably more popular in the West than it was in Japan. And they're not going to ignore that domestic market, especially not now the West is much more inclined to get any kind of form of new Monster Hunter. Let's be honest, and I'm sure many of you, are as smitten with this game series as a Celtis is to its queen. And of course, the team that made Generations and Generations Ultimate, they probably haven't just been sat there twiddling their thumbs lazily like a well-fed great Jagras. So we have something to expect in that department. And of course, there's rumors of an upgraded Switch still circling around, so what better way to set that off with a bang than another portable Monster Hunter title. And honestly, again, I have just missed so much playing Monster Hunter on the go. I fell in love with this game on the PSP. I played the original on PlayStation 2, but my first multi-thousand-hour sinkage was Freedom and Freedom Unite, so that is an exciting prospect once more. And honestly, the older style of the game is something that's still quite fun. It's arcadey, it's high intensity, and in some cases, it's just beautifully ridiculous. However, rumors are abound that the next Monster Hunter portable title, the next, you could argue, spin-off game or side game, is going to use the Resident Evil engine, which should give it a fairly different look. Certainly, you could argue an upgrade in fidelity. But the question remains then, are we going to see it announced? Perhaps soon at the Tokyo Game Show? Perhaps further afield? Will it release surprisingly before the end of the year? Or will it be comfortably next year's Monster Hunter title to tide us over until Monster Hunter 6 comes a-knocking? Capcom also reportedly want to hit a record sales target by the end of the year, and to do this, well, there is whispers of new games. Whether they are completely new or new entries into existing IPs is another question entirely, but also Capcom were notoriously a little bit wary of the Switch when it first came out, but it has undoubtedly become one of the most popular consoles full stop, and an excellent console in its own right. So it would make sense to combine these two little factoids with a, well, here's a cheeky little extra Switch Monster Hunter, get it in November, in time for Christmas hunting, but maybe that is perhaps a little optimistic. And the thing is, how do you go about doing another portable? Obviously the Switch is a lot more powerful than the 3DS. And, you know, you don't need to look at something like Breath of the Wild to see the kind of worlds that can be captured there. So do we want to go back to loading screens between zones? Do we want to go back to a world of no turf wars, of such little monster interactivity with its environment, of, well, the old style? Do we want a distinctly portable feel, which plays much like 4 Ultimate or Gen Ultimate, and then a distinctly, well, world feel, which plays like World and Iceborne running in tandem as a cycle across the years? I don't think that would be the worst thing in the world, but I definitely think there is an argument that a lot of the needless kind of jank and clunkiness and confusion to a lot of the mechanics in the old style of games can be refined, can be changed, can be made to reflect how much more streamlined and easy to get into World in Iceborne is. I don't think we need to completely keep enshrining the old way of Monster Hunter, because I will say that objectively, the Iceborne world way of things, with a few exceptions, Clutch Claw, is just the best Monster Hunter has ever been. And while another old school portable title would be fun, I don't know if it would have that kind of lasting appeal, especially to the quite literally millions of people whose only experience with Monster Hunter is the World in Iceborne style. So it's a delicate balance to walk. It also depends if they're gonna put in World in Iceborne monsters into the next portable. Would they downgrade how they play? Would they convert them to a different style of monster hunting? Or just leave them in the mainline series? That's quite the conundrum too. I doubt we'll see perhaps deviants and hunting styles and the super flashy moves, but at the same time, anything really is possible when it comes to a spin-off side title to keep us going until the next main one. But at the very least, there is strong rumors that we are getting the announcement of such very soon, and that we are definitely going to get something portable before the next mainline game, and that in itself is very, very exciting. And of course there is Monster Hunter Stories 2 to think about, which is the outside third option and not something that I would be against at all. Monster Hunter Stories is so much fun, it is such a lovely concept, and while it wasn't that successful, generally speaking, it is still a Monster Hunter property, and the game has got a lot more popular since Stories first debuted, and I could totally see the next game on Switch being a full-on huge Monster Hunter Stories 2 with so many more monsters to get and a much bigger scope of game. But that's perhaps a more outside hopeful look that isn't as likely. But what is likely then is another portable title soon-ish, and then guaranteed another mainline title within the next 2 years. The details of which are anyone's guess, but it's easy to see what has worked, what is popular, and what the team is wanting to push and do. And no matter what happens, let's be honest, the passion that goes into these games is second to none, and however it ends up looking, it will be something much adored by me, and I can only assume all of you guys too. Also, just to address the sponsored nature of this one, I realize it's not something I do often, because it's not something I generally like to do, but sometimes the stars align, and genuinely, Lost Ark is the best MMORPG I've probably ever played. We've covered it a lot on the channel, and we plan to cover it loads when it comes out, and I actually only got to play it because of literally this VPN that I used just randomly from choosing from them all, like, over a year ago. So when they approached me if I wanted to give them a little bit of a shout out, then yeah, I was like, that kinda works. So they're not going to start springing up all over the place, so you don't need to worry on that front, but sometimes it just kinda lines up, and I thank you guys for supporting it and the channel and everything, and it really does mean a lot to have you all. You are just the best audience. So let me know what your thoughts are on how this will all end up, but until then, like, if you enjoyed this, subscribe for more, and I'll see you soon. Oh, goodbye.
Rage Gaming with the video float.
But that's all that's really relevant at the mo, but I'm still gonna leave this up so you patrons know that I love you even though the outro's no longer that kind of relevant. But the new one's being worked on and it's gonna be a truly badass song, and don't worry, I won't be doing any rapping on it. I'm gonna go now. This was shit.